my friends are heathens, take it slow. Wait for them to ask you who you know.
Welcome to Secular Panthers, GSC Scholarship for free-thinking, agnostic, or otherwise secular students, where all faiths are welcome, and our only sacred truth is that there are no sacred truths. So welcome, everyone. Today we're going to talk about deism and its possible history in our country's history. Yeah, it's kind of important. But yeah, we're going to talk about maybe, is it recording? Can you toss me the little sound device underneath there? Actually,
it's glaring.
Yeah,
we'll get into it.
Excellent. Yeah. So deism, that's cool. Thank you, Trey. That's awesome. And if you could, the dimmer switch over here.
Thank you.
And then we'll, the dimmer, it's the light.
The size, it's very small.
It's the very tiny little bar that you slide down.
Slightly pull your finger like down the
Yeah, just caress it. Just caress it. There you go.
That's a weird word.
I mean, it was the word, it was exactly what had to be done. Thank you for caressing that. Yeah, so deism, we've got a couple of things to talk about as well as some current events. Hello, Jakai.
Hey, what's up?
Welcome. Talking about deism. Yeah, excellent. So, before we go to the topic at hand, some current events talking about Harvey and some people with opinions saying that churches shouldn't get federal money because of religious freedom. Like they're hit by Harvey and maybe we can't give those churches money because it might be supporting a particular religion. Does anyone want to speak to that? Or, it's Maurice.
It's only fine if they do it to everything, and I think they do. So in that case, it shouldn't be that big of a deal.
Yeah, I like it if it's everyone. Trey?
Might be further reasons that have churches pay taxes that is money that is being
Yeah.
to help them.
Okay. Oh, and then
Well, I'm wondering what the rules are that apply to individual people whose homes are damaged, because it seems to me the same rules should apply
yes.
in those places.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I like what they were saying, like if it's available for all faiths, like that would be cool. Yes, but
Couldn't you argue that the money would be better spent repairing the whatever the amount is that they have to do? Like, I feel like you should spend it on repairing the city compared to the church.
I feel like that could be easily argued. Yes. Yeah.
So on one hand, I don't believe they should because they're not getting taxed. So the money that they're saving from not being taxed should be going towards the road repairs. But on the other hand, if they are actually helping people, which not all of them are, like that mega church in Texas that was not helping anybody and got in trouble for that, they don't deserve any for sure. But if there were churches that are actually helping the community and all these people are losing their homes, then I think they might deserve it.
Oh, excellent. How those chips? How those chips? It's good. I'm glad.
Here's standard issue.
Excellent. Just the waves.
There is one issue of helping certain types of structures in relation to churches because particularly facilities used to help people, like the certain churches offer services and such, and that certain denominations or religious groups help or have the infrastructure to help more than others, and so you have an implicit bias that comes forth as a result of that.
That seems reasonable. Cool. So Donald Trump had something to tweet about this. I felt like it would be interesting to us. I'm just going to read it. Churches in Texas should be entitled to reimbursement from FEMA relief funds for helping victims of Hurricane Harvey, just like others. Does anyone want to respond to President Trump? Oh, God. Okay, we'll just go straight.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
This is him pandering to his base. I don't think he personally cares.
You got a lot of likes on that one.
Because let's be honest. Well, there was a section of his base that would really like that. And I think it also appeals, like, if you're not really looking at it with a critical eye, yeah, they should. They're churches, they're important, places.
They're institutions of society.
Yeah, like, I feel like that might, an unexpected person might pass by and say, oh, look, he's an idea. That's not bad, sweet.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think that it's not a bad idea as long as they're being implemented and watched by the government. But if it's just like here you get money and you get money, it's prone to more corruption if it's not more regulated enough.
Yeah. Sounds reasonable.
Oh, sure.
Oh,
We have
Yeah, bro.
Jane as well that she leaks.
So, that might be a little.
Oh, she leaks the little plastic pellets.
Oh, let me make it
getting old.
So I really think, like, in this instance, this is a good example of like how our society works, where when businesses and people pay taxes towards the government in turn provides services to citizens, such as relief from natural disasters. But if churches, correct me if I'm wrong, churches do pay less taxes than businesses, right? They don't pay anything.
Yeah.
So why do they feel like they should get federal money if they're not contributing to that amount of federal money?
True that.
You guys,
As the most Republican or United.
Well, and isn't it a church's duty, or isn't it some part of their responsibility to help the public without being, without being recognized and without recognition and like payment and reciprocity? Like, I thought churches were supposed to just help the sake of the public. But also, who has the time or patience to sit down and go, oh, this church helped, this church didn't, this church gave out like 3 bottles of water, that's kind of helping, that church, like, nobody has the time or patience to sit down and do that. So I feel like it should be all or nothing, but
I think that you're right in saying that it's hard to manage, but I believe that churches they should have the money, but they shouldn't be reimbursed, if that makes any sense. They should like have the funds to help people because it's part of their religion, but they shouldn't have reimbursement money.
I wonder if Trump would say the same thing about like mosques.
Oh, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, good
He
question.
wouldn't say that.
Yeah. Well, what if they're helping people? Like the mosques that did take people in
Yeah, what
during
about
the
those?
hurricane. Like,
There were stories on that one, right?
yeah, before Joel Osteen
Wait, were there
opened up his church. Yeah, the mosques opened up their doors before Joel Osteen did. Like it was the public outcry that it was. But we'll get on that later. Like we also need to talk about that John Oliver episode eventually about the taxes. Cool. Let's keep moving. I thought that this was cool. The first Saudi Arabian woman allowed in sports stadiums, like without attendance.
they're also
Yes. Oh, also driving.
Yes.
He was like covering that too. Yes. Carlos.
No. Oh, God.
Too bad.
I'm so sorry to ask this, but what's today's topic?
Wait, what?
What's today's topic?
Okay, today we're talking about deism. Deism is, well, what is deism? That's the topic of today's
I think we should get there.
What does
Let's
MUN
keep
stand
moving.
for?
Let's get to what deism is. So they're allowed into sports stadiums. Not only that, but even more impressive, Saudi Arabia is allowing women to have driver's licenses, which it's like in the last week, both of these things have happened. It's really cool. Yes, sir.
Hooray for
I was gonna
social
say-
progress from the West.
I'm gonna say, like, that is actually a really big move for Saudi Arabia.
Right?
Like, they're now relaxing themselves, and like hopefully it'll lead to a lot more other freedoms
I
that we
hope
have
so.
here, like in the States.
Like, good on them.
I am personally very optimistic. Mohammed Al Salman, 31-year-old, he's doing so far all right on domestic policy.
He's doing some.
But it depends
stuff,
on
yeah.
really what happens in foreign policy if there's an intervention.
We'll see. Good catch.
Do we have a good idea why this happened? Are they
The king
trying to
weighed
protect
the
their PR or
negative and
something?
positive points of the ban on women. Oh, sorry, I was just responding to your.
Okay, go ahead.
Yours. I'm going to read. The official Saudi press agency wrote, while also making sure that any new law was in compliance with Islamic law. SPA said the change was approved by a majority of the Council of Senior Scholars. I'm not sure what that is. Saudi Arabia is. Oh, I should read more often. That's what it is. Oh, and the official Twitter account. There you go.
It's not in there.
Yeah.
So conservative in the writing.
Arabic is
So yeah, that's going on. Very, very cool stuff. Yeah, it gets better. Oh my god, this is the cutest thing I saw all week. Just wait. Tails wagging. That makes me happy after hearing some bad news.
Well, but like the Saudi Arabia women thing was great.
Yeah, well, the Trump stuff we saw before was not.
Yeah, but
so-
this is kind of a constant.
Yeah, so we need some happiness. Hello, Miranda. Welcome.
Bonjour.
Bonjour. Yes.
No, never mind.
Okay, let's keep going. Enough puppies. Alabama's Roy Moore would be the most extreme senator with consequences for Congress. I heard him compared to like a Christian Taliban. Yeah, like it's kind of a religious theocracy that this man is after.
That's not.
Thoughts? Someone who has the monkey? Oh,
Ooh,
actually,
yes.
thank
Yeah, do you want to explain like what's extreme about this guy?
Let's click.
I can do it for you.
Thank you.
So one thing, so he's been known for being supportive of the Ten Commandments on the the grounds of the Alabama Supreme Court. And for over
Isn't that common in the Republican Party somewhat?
well, it was kind of ruled like
Okay,
unconstitutional
fair
and
enough.
that. And then after the Supreme Court ruling on same-sex marriage, Roy Moore decided to keep the ban there, even though it's not. And because of that, there are 8 courts in Alabama that will not give marriage licenses to same-sex couples.
Let's get married in Alabama.
And moreover, Dan, you made me lose track.
So there are 10 courts in Alabama?
Yeah, there's 8.
8.
Yeah, 8 courts that do not. And moreover, he once said before that homosexual conduct is illegal and is destroying America. Moreover, that God's law should supersede federal law in
That's
this case.
the most sinister thing, I think. Like, he's publicly come out and said that God's
And there
law
was
is
something about Keith Ellison too, which you highlight.
Yeah.
So another for sure, a Democratic congressman from Minnesota, Keith Ellison, he's a Muslim, but he decides to do the oath on the Quran. And so basically, hey, if you can do the Bible, you can do the Quran, whatever. But basically, he had a huge issue with that. And he basically compared it like in 1943, where we let congressmen be swear to oath on the Mein Kampf in 1950. He said it was something like 1950 to the Communist Manifesto.
Interesting question.
Would you be swearing?
Like swear on
Would you, I see your face. Would you like to respond?
No, he said that.
Yeah,
He's also the guy that helped
So
all
let's
of
get
these
married
little
in
places in
Alabama.
Alabama stand up against taking down the Confederate flags as well. Just
Sounds like a lovely human being.
yeah.
Well, let's.
I went to Alabama and he was.
Yes.
Okay, to add to this clusterfuck, he also conducted a prayer session in his courtroom, and despite direct orders from a higher court not to do so, continued.
Interesting.
And he's been banned from he's been barred from the court twice.
That's scary. That's not a lot of people.
Thank you for that
Crazy for Trump.
piece of information. Wow.
Wait, did Trump tweet about it?
Oh, God.
Yeah, so here's the deal.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
So the establishment and Donald Trump wanted Luther Strange, who's a more sort of conservative, a more moderate, not entirely moderate, but more moderate candidate to win, and Roy Moore ended up winning anyways. So then this morning, Donald Trump deleted all those tweets about supporting Strange. So
Curious.
yeah, so it's
we do have to keep moving, so I'm going to move on
Why?
to.
Why?
Oh, what? Why do we have to?
We can talk about Donald Trump for hours.
I mean, good, yeah.
You don't have.
Lord knows we
You don't
could.
have waiters and
So the last current event piece that we have to talk about. Did anyone see the most recent episode of Rick and Morty? Yes, excellent. Yeah, it's very cool. I like how they're referencing popular culture. That's the perfect attitude. Excellent. Yeah. Oh, and we can watch it.
The one that sidetracked us. No.
Yeah. So I guess the obvious implications are referencing to what's been going on with people deciding to kneel before the football games.
I just have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
What does Roy Moore have to do with incest?
What? I don't know.
The plot of this episode is that the guy has sex with all these creatures.
That is true. It is. Yeah, that was the basic plot of the episode. It's pretty fucked up. It's
Yeah.
I kind of Which episode was this?
The most recent season 3, episode 9.
I want to say like it's probably like has to do with like a trope with like Catholic preachers and stuff like that, since it's a tie to Christianity.
But this is an imaginary world.
It is. What was it called? It was.
Yeah, it takes. Yeah.
I mean, like, this was her best childhood.
Yeah.
And also, how can you compare that to like the Take the Kneel? Because it seems like if you don't know any of the context, like real world, it kind of seems a little vague.
It is. I think purposely so.
Not trying to like.
Yeah.
There's one too that one.
Oh.
Didn't sound like that.
What were you gonna say, Michael? You were gonna say something about it.
Oh, nothing. No.
Oh, you really don't know much about it?
Yeah. No.
I guess I'll go.
Yeah. Go
Oh
for it.
yeah, so basically that is the first player to ever kneel on the right, number 7.
Tell me why does he?
He goes basically he had issue with the police brutality and the criminal justice system, and he felt like the flag that says that technically it should represent all of us, but in practice it doesn't. It views certain aspects of society, mainly people of color, are not as treated as they should be compared to their white counterparts. So he was making a stand. And then Donald Trump,
What did he say?
he called him a son of a bitch. That's the first thing.
Holy shit. Okay.
In Alabama, it was the same rally where he was endorsing Strange.
Huh.
That is strange. But yeah, he basically.
If you want, I can read out the tweet.
Sure. Just read it.
The issue of kneeling has nothing to do with race. It's about respect for our country, our flag, and our national anthem.
Yeah, pretty much it's like saying like you disrespect the veterans like this. Well, technically they fought for your First Amendment right to do this. As well.
True. Yeah. I've read
True,
it.
but I mean,
And so what happened as a result? As that Friday, that Sunday, I remember there was massively around the league. They beforehand it was like sporadic because there's already been a year past and kind of like the steam of the movement went down. But it was like everywhere. Like for example, like there was the first game, the Ravens Jaguars. They all linked in arms, either kneeling or just within arms in solidarity. And there were other teams as
And
well.
they're standing, so when they link arms, it's when they're standing because they refuse to kneel.
Yeah,
Interesting.
but they still do it in like a
Falcons have done
solidarity.
almost every game since this started.
Yeah, it's like the solidarity. And it was like the Cowboys owner on Monday night. He decides to kneel with the whole team and the staff before the anthem. And I remember and it was a whole commotion. Even Tom Brady kind of moved.
One more comment. And we'll move on. Go ahead.
I forget that particular owner's name, but he actually donated to Trump. The owner who kneeled
Jack-
with his, I forget his name.
Jared Jones.
what's up with this?
Well, he's a
It
businessman.
was
Oh God.
terrible.
So he donated to Trump, but now he doesn't like Trump because.
Wow.
It's affecting his business.
Shit. Yeah. So I'm not gonna stand. Suck my dick. Yeah, cool. All right. So what is deism? Finally, we get to hear about deism. Excellent. So this is Hendon Bennett. He writes for the Friendly Atheist blog, and he's going to describe kind of what that is.
What is deism? Deism is this idea, and I'm going to put this very simply as much as I can. Deism is this idea that God created the world and then went away. Like that would answer a lot of the unanswerable questions. Like, where did the universe come from? Why are we here? Well, God created us, and now he's gone. So that means you don't have to pray to God. It means you don't owe God anything. God's not looking after you. He's not answering your prayers. You can essentially live your life as an atheist with the knowledge that maybe God put this whole thing into motion. And at least to me, I think it's a cop-out answer. I don't think it makes sense. I don't think you could dismiss God from everything, but then say he was around just to start the whole process in motion. I don't know that you could do that. But at least that makes more sense to me than the God who is watching over you and who's listening to every person and all of their thoughts and knows what's going on in their lives. And a lot of smart people who have said they are deists. I mean, a lot of our founding fathers, including, Thomas Paine, James Madison, they were deists, and I'm sure other ones were as well. They're not evangelical Christians. When Christians say, our founding fathers were Christian, no, they weren't like the people that would go to your church. They were people like Madison who were deists and believed God was involved in the creation of the world, but he's not here anymore. What's really interesting is several years ago, I kept seeing all these headlines about how a really famous atheist, I forgot if he was a theologian or just an author, but Anthony Flew, they said he was an atheist and he started believing in God. And oh my God, he did it all of us are going to start doing it as well. And you get the idea from those headlines, like, oh man, he somehow became a Christian. Like, that doesn't happen that often, so what's up with that? But when you actually did any research into it, the truth is he said, you know what? I went from being an atheist to being a deist. That, to me, that is at least plausible. That's all he said. And people made this huge leap that all of a sudden he was praying or he believed in miracles or all that nonsense, and that's not the case at all. So, I can at least understand if someone said, I'm a deist. I don't agree with them, but I can't really argue against it. There's no evidence for me to say, no, God didn't start the universe. I just don't think that's a good answer. I think the most intellectually honest thing you could say is, we don't know where it all came from, and it's silly to try to make up an answer just because you want to fill that hole of knowledge. My name is Hemant Mehta. I write for friendlyatheist.com, and we'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment below and become part of this discussion.
Yay. So was that an accurate description of deism? Warren, what do you
All
think?
right, yeah. I just have an observation.
Okay.
Whenever we hear these stories about a famous atheist suddenly starting to believe in God,
Like this guy, which we're actually going to hear his words.
okay, fair enough. Yeah. It's never one I've heard of.
That's true.
Sure.
I hadn't heard of.
I think I've spent a decent amount of time in the active atheist community, and these are never people I've heard of when these stories come up.
Yes. Good. Well said.
So I think that the friendly atheist account of deism was kind of like he skipped over a lot of what it really.
What did he skip about?
Like for example, he kind of just like was like, oh, this is just kind of a cop out. Instead of
simple.
I mean, because I guess like on the surface, deism is God created the world and went away. But if you look more into what deism could be, it could be rather that there are some forms of life that we are not in contact with or not perceived that have created the world and then, for whatever reason, aren't involved in it. For example, like a god or any kind of like other alien or life form could have, been involved in creating the natural laws that we adhere to, like gravity, etc. And those laws is what governs the earth and set the earth in motion, rather than him actually creating the earth in like 6 days or whatever. So you could look into it as in like another entity creates the natural laws, or that there is some unknown forces at work that that kind of give rise to why we're here. And it can be an account as to how the universe started. And it kind of is like a cop-out answer, but what's the atheist account of how the universe started? It's always existed.
13.7 billion years
Was that
ago.
13 years ago?
7 billion, yeah.
I mean,
That's the best we got, though. We don't know what happened before that.
Right.
That's the question. Like, I don't know yet.
I don't know. People can think.
But yes. Let's just then we'll go straight that way.
I was gonna say as saying that deists believe that God created the world and he went away. I don't think that he went away per se. I just kind of think that if in a deist perspective, if he created and just sat back and not intervene in anything. He didn't just go and just left the planet. I guess he's probably there and just kind of just looking, but just not interfere with anything.
Yeah, I do think he not all deists might believe that. That was one of my problems with the video. Yes.
What you were saying earlier about what you think of deism is basically how I see it. I don't think of a particular god, but God could be anything, but I don't know what it is. So it could be aliens, it could be the laws of physics, we could be in a computer simulation. I'm not sure yet, but it doesn't matter to me because I'm just going to keep living my life the way I live it, and I don't pray to anybody, so it's cool.
Cool.
The clockmaker is great.
That's what Newton said.
I was going to ask what the meaningful difference between a deity that leaves or observes, if I'm perceiving
is what?
I don't know if I'll repeat. So I was going to ask, I'm not sure what the meaningful difference between the deity that leaves versus observes and intercede.
Versus one that just doesn't exist?
Maybe you should draw your own. Maybe there is no difference. Maybe he left. Maybe he's we can't know because it's we're dealing with something that is like something that humans have struggled to deal with for thousands of years.
True, for as long as we've been human.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, it was good.
That was good.
Yeah.
Gotta reach a higher throne, a higher power.
Oh, to a higher power.
Praise Hayao Miyazaki.
Praise. Excellent.
What?
Oh no, we're done with that. Yeah, good thoughts. Does anyone else have something they'd like to add to that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to figure out like a good way of phrasing it. I was thinking about, we talked about Spinoza's God.
Yes.
Where,
The God Einstein believed in, apparently.
right, it's pantheistic and
I thought Einstein was Jewish.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, ethnically Jewish. There.
Because my first instinct is to see that Spinoza's God is essentially sort of kind of pantheistic God is nature, which isn't quite right, apparently. I'm reading. So I'm trying to struggle for a good definition of it. It's supposed to be.
Is pantheism a kind of deism? Is that what it is?
I'll just say deism is.
Oh, okay.
Did you add those definitions to your slides?
Wait, could I add
Yeah,
that?
pantheism, pantheism, all of that.
Oh yeah, I don't have
Okay,
slides.
can we go for it?
Let us continue forward, and
Where's
we can
Kevin
maybe
Bacon?
touch on that in a second.
Okay.
That'll be good. Carlos, and then I'll take it back to here.
Anyone have an iPhone charger?
Give me a Funky. I do.
Tyler, do you know?
Cool. I don't. I'm sorry. Yeah, you got it. Yes.
I just thought of something. Next time you plug a device into a charger, you can thank James Clerk Maxwell for discovering the 4 commandments of electromagnetism.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Oh,
Science.
Science.
Or do I not have to do algebra because of exponents? I don't believe in a higher power.
Oh.
We should blame the Muslim world for algebra. No, I'm serious.
Blame on us.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they created algebra, so yeah, blame
Thanks,
them.
James Clerk Maxwell. Yeah.
Blame the people who created algebra.
All those
Muslims, scholars.
No, they're brilliant, yeah. On the note of, you were talking about like maybe there's an extraterrestrial intelligence that can control things. I would claim that if there was an extraterrestrial intelligence that had sufficient technology, it would be indistinguishable from a god. Like I imagine, yeah, there would be no difference. Yes. Oh, that's Jake.
Damn.
All right,
He's soft.
But and then begs the question: how did they come? So would that be passing the buck?
Yeah. To an extent.
That doesn't really solve the problem.
But Carl Sagan said, like, if you want to
I just
claim
have a
that
question. Are we veering into ancient aliens territory?
Eventually, yes. We're going to talk. We're going to have an ancient. Aliens. Eventually, yes. Wait, what was I talking about?
This is what my father watches. I can't
That's fine. Cool. So I did want to hear a few words from Anthony Flew. Like, I didn't know who he was, so I felt like it would be appropriate to see what he
What
said
were
for
some of
himself.
the factors that prompted you to, in recent years, reconsider atheism and to come to the conclusion that that there is a intelligence?
It's been entirely these, I suppose, biological discoveries and some discoveries about the chemistry.
So
These things.
the complexity and
Yeah, the integrated complexity argument.
now when you talk about the integrated complexity,
Yeah.
is it the unlikelihood of that developing naturalistically, the first complex integrated biological system? Is that where the problem you saw?
Well, yes, because after all, there is a problem about even of physical nature. There's it's if the integrated complexity of the physical world is a good reason, as Einstein clearly thought it was, of believing that there was an intelligence behind it, then this argument applies a fortiori with the inordinately greater integrated complexity of the living world. It seems to me this is just obvious that argument is much stronger now.
And this was one of the factors that led you to conclude there must be an intelligence.
Yeah. it was accepting prior to judge and seeing that if what you're saying is applied, well, of course Einstein didn't have any authority at all. He wasn't inclined reasonably enough to talk about it.
Does anyone want to respond to that?
Yes.
Okay.
I think what he's trying to say, or at least what I kind of interpret, is that the world, as it gets more and more explained through rationality, we realize that we can't explain everything with our level of rationality. Therefore, since there is a level of rationality that is more advanced than what we can perceive, then that might give rise to there may be another subject that is doing that higher level of rationality that is different than us. And it may be that we just haven't gotten to the level yet where we can understand the world as it is naturally, but it could be just possible that we can't understand it because it's something else, something that goes beyond any scope of human comprehension through this infinite complexity that he's trying to get at.
Do you think we ever could understand it?
Well, I mean, I know personally as I go through life, things get more and more complex.
Yeah?
And at one point I'll plateau and be like, oh, this is how it is. And it's like, it's so much more complex than
Not
that.
how it is. Yes.
And it's just, like, we're trying to imagine like all these structures that make up the world and how the world, like how people do things and why they do things. It's like, it's, you can't really wrap your mind around it. So many people have tried to they try to get a little glimpse of it, like little tidbit, like here's, I base my life on this one small thing that I'm proving.
Yeah.
But that's just like 1/1,000,000th of the account of the world.
Yeah.
And they spend their entire life doing that. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't really support these, but that's what I interpret when he's saying infinite complexity.
See, it kind of reminds me of irreducible complexity that creationists sometimes cite, how there are these components that could not evolve separately, and therefore, because it's sufficiently complex, it must have a designer. It kind of sounds like that kind of argument. The other thing is that he's not a biologist, he is a philosopher. Not to say that philosophers cannot understand biology, but it's interesting. Carlos.
I honestly think this is a mistake that many people do. I think it's a glitch in our critical thinking machinery.
Yeah.
That this has a specific name, but it's it's like we can't understand it, so it has to be a god or a higher power. And there's the same mentality that's kept humanity kind of behind, because every person that discovers something that's, whether it be science or technology, there's always going to be people that are telling him that it's not possible, or I think that same kind of mentality. And I think he was kind of in a philosophical masturbation,
Yeah.
Or I don't know, he was kind of on a trip.
Maybe.
But it was a monkey.
I was going to say something actually with that. So maybe one of the reasons some people believe in God is because they're afraid. It's something easy to fall back on. My mother believed in God, my father believed in God, my ancestors believed in this. It's just, there is something comforting about believing in God.
Yes.
It's scarier not to believe in God than to believe in God, because if you believe in God, there's a structure. I can get it, but it's also scary to think that there might not be anyone out there.
Yeah, it is scary to doubt.
Yes. It's like a little add-on, and he was, just out of respect, he was really old too. So who knows that as you get older, your beliefs start changing, and he was saying, you're scared, so you're more likely to find God. Lots of people find God the last minute of their life.
Lots of people find God in prison.
Yes. Hold on. But the God that he described really quickly, it's not a personal God. So why would he?
No, but it would explain it would give him some kind of comfort in the possibility of maybe an afterlife or something. And the way he was
can be
describing
comforting, yeah.
Becoming part of the cosmos or
I
whatever.
was just going to say he didn't believe in an afterlife.
Who didn't?
He didn't.
Shane, or the dude? Anthony.
David did still. Wait, is he dead now? Or?
Yeah.
He died in 2010.
2010.
And he didn't believe in an afterlife even when he was about to die.
Thank you. Yeah.
He died in
And then we will Cool.
That's where
Couple things, like
Yes.
I have to say I am way less concerned about his actual conclusions than I am about the Christian public's response to it.
Yeah.
That's the first thing, and of course the same problem occurs with all the ancient scientists like Newton, and also with Einstein, who's in similar territory, I suspect. The second thing, you know that metaphor about drinking from the cup of science, and at the top it seems like atheism, but at the bottom you find God, is what people like to say.
I've heard it now.
Oh wow!
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad that's not as common as it used to be, because no one who says that has actually been to the bottom, and in fact, there might not be a bottom.
What was
It's endless. There's no stopping
Wait,
it.
what was his name again?
Anthony Flew.
Sorry.
Anthony Flew. Yes. Did you get the monkey, or was who was it? I'll take it.
No, I don't have anything smart to say.
All right, then we'll take it. Who's this? I don't have an idea, Mr. Crazy.
Honestly, Thomas Jefferson.
He looks, maybe. Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, I was right.
This is my favorite photo of Jefferson. He's like the badass crazy man. Yeah, he's not like the president. He's Jefferson.
Didn't he?
Oh, see you later, man. Yes, didn't he?
Didn't he have sex with one of his slaves?
Yes, he did. Yeah. So we're not going to have time to cover all of Jefferson's life. We're just going to cover the deistic bits.
But he's such an interesting historical figure.
Yes, there is. Oh. Bless you guys. Thomas Jefferson. So there is a memorial that they have, and on this memorial there's a quote that comes over the top that people like to quote as, well, Thomas Jefferson believes in God because he used the word God.
He can believe in God and still be a deist.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, they're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, that's true. So what does it say? Obviously, so here's some of the stuff that he wrote in the Constitution, which is, it's all well and good. But the really interesting part, I think, is this little inscription above the very top. I have sworn upon the altar of God eternal hostility against every form of tyranny over the mind of man. Yeah, I mean, I guess that sounds kind of cool. He's talking about on the altar of God, hostility against tyranny. Like, what's that about?
Even though he was a deist, he could not have used more religious language.
Yeah,
I think that was the point.
Yeah, it's like most people would respond to this kind of language. So in that aspect, I could kind of see.
But it disparages his own meaning, and maybe especially with our First Amendment issues.
Yeah, that's another.
I mean,
thing to think about.
maybe he didn't think of this.
I mean, he's probably just talking about that God protects people from the tyranny of men, which includes religion, because you don't have to necessarily believe in religion and God at the same time.
Okay. Yes, we'll just keep going straight this way. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, kind of looking at it at first glance is kind of literal. It's kind of like it's kind of ironic in a way, I guess you could say, because eternal hostility against every form of tyranny over the mind of man. I kind of think the word manipulation, kind of stuff like that, and putting on kind of like my atheist hat a little bit. When you think of religion, you always kind of think of like manipulation and kind of stuff like that. So I guess you're kind of trying to say like, I don't like the manipulation that many churches do. So I'm going to I hate it so much that I will swear it on the altar of God, something that he may or may not be.
Maybe believes in God.
And that's I've heard a lot of people say that. Like, I am not in support of organized religion, but the religion itself, or the peace that I find, can be good. Yes, Warren. Oh, and then back.
Yeah. Yes. I missed a little bit. Are some people objecting to what he's saying here? Or?
Would you like to hear some context?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
This is one of my favorites. Thomas Jefferson was running for president of the United States. It's the summer of 1800. He's running against John Adams, the sitting president, and Jefferson at that point in time was the vice president, and he and Adams were not speaking. They hated each other at that point. And a friend of his Benjamin Rush, he was a physician, and one of Jefferson's probably 10 closest friends in the world, who was also a deist and a Unitarian. He was not a Christian, Ben Rush. Sent him a letter and asking Jefferson's thoughts on Christianity. Now, at the top of the Jefferson Memorial here in Washington, D.C., if you go into the Jefferson Memorial, there's this dome at the very top above this giant statue of Jefferson. Etched into the dome are the following words: I have sworn upon the altar of God eternal hostility against every form of tyranny over the mind of man. That's what it says in the Jefferson Memorial, and fundamentalist Christians love to quote that. Jefferson using the word God.
With that said, I've never had someone cite that as a reason for believing in God. Most of the informed theologians or people I've talked to understand that Jefferson was kind of opposed to religion. So he says that, but I've never heard anyone use that as an argument. So let's keep listening.
Altar of God?
Altar of God.
Let me provide you with the context for this, because that quote came out of that letter to Ben Rush. Let me read you the entire letter, or at least 3 paragraphs out of the letter. There's some other personal stuff in there that doesn't have to do with this topic. But he says, Dear Dr. Rush, I promised you a letter on Christianity, which I have not forgotten. I do not know that it would reconcile the genus irritable vetum, which is the genus, the kind of variety of irritable vetum angry priests, who are all in arms against me. Their hostility is on too interesting a ground to be softened. The delusion, and now he's talking about the First Amendment, right, which guarantees freedom of religion in the United States. The delusion on the clause of the Constitution, which while it secured the freedom of the press, covered also the freedom of religion, has given to the clergy a very favored hope of obtaining an establishment of a particular form of Christianity throughout the United States. And as every sect believes its own form the true one, everyone perhaps hoped for his own, but especially the Episcopalians and the Congregationalists. The returning good sense of our country, and by that he's speaking of his being elected President of the United States. This is in his letter to Ben Rush, by the way, he says, please do not let anybody read this letter. This was found in his papers after he died. The returning good sense of our country threatens abortion to their hopes. And the preachers believe that any portion of power confided to me, such as being elected president, will be exerted in opposition to their schemes. And they believe rightly, for I have sworn upon the altar of God eternal hostility against every form of tyranny over the mind of man. You get it? He's talking about religion. He said, but this is all they have to fear for me, and enough too, in their opinion. End of quote.
That's all.
Look at her.
So the very quote that has been put into the Jefferson Memorial and is constantly quoted by these Bible thumpers about Jefferson, no, the throne of God, the eternal hostility against any form of tyranny over the mind of man. Well, the tyranny over the mind of man that Jefferson was speaking of was Christianity.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he was being peppered by, lobbied by, harassed by the Unitarians and the Congregationalists and a whole bunch of other religious folks, basically wanting him to profess Christianity. He was not a Christian, he was a deist. And he went out of his way not only to not endorse Christianity, but basically to diss it on multiple occasions.
Thoughts? Yes, excellent. Oh, cool.
So I think there are a lot of people who believe or think that a lot of the founding fathers used deism to cover their atheism because in some of these secret or hidden writings that they found after they died and after they were famous, they have very, very strong opinions on certain things. So I feel like a lot of this is taken out of context, like he's saying, and a lot of them are more atheist than we think. But I like that he puts it in context and shows what he's doing.
Yes.
Or maybe they, or maybe they believe in God, but it's not maybe like a strong belief. Like, it's like some people they say they believe in God, but it's like, Really? And then what year was this made? Because maybe like Bible thumpers have like changed their opinions on the quote. Like they've like maybe more theological scholars have like realized this is what it means.
Yeah, I suspect. I'd estimate maybe 2010, but I have to go back to the video and see for sure.
Maybe like people in the 5 years since have changed their like resources.
I would like to think that.
No, and I feel like it's also more of a turn of phrase that he was saying, like a colloquialism of that time, not necessarily like him professing to God. Like I feel like it's a turn of phrase.
Yes.
We often we use slang a lot of times.
I mean, we use God around this.
Yeah.
Like if he did use perfectly secular language, how many people would he reach? Like no one would. Yeah.
You think what is slang exactly? The altar of God phrase?
Like swearing upon the altar of God, like even though he's
yeah.
deist, like he probably didn't mean I actually like physically sat down in church,
Yeah.
knelt down and like swore and like I don't think he used that exactly.
Jefferson.
I sort of
yeah.
I took it more something close. I always perceived him to be sort of like idealistic, so I sort of saw this and saying like generally the idea of God, like he's speaking from the manifestation of God.
Okay.
Altar.
Blah blah blah.
Couldn't it just be like
You
swearing
shall
on
not
the
swear
God?
falsely, but shall
Swear
not
swear to God.
Yeah, that sounds like I swear to God.
We use it all the time.
Yeah, just say it. Isabel, yes.
Yeah, I definitely think it was said to add, I guess, power to his words, but it wasn't meant to be taken literally for people to decipher it. And even if people do decipher it now as pro-religious or any kind of like supporting God or anything supporting his beliefs, our founding fathers supported our organized religion or whatever, there is no National Society of Bible Thumpers where you can say the entire Society of Bible Thumpers think that. It's probably just like a small sect of people that like may reference that out of ignorance, but it's not like a majority thing. Our nation was founded on this, blah, blah, blah. Look at Thomas Jefferson.
He used the word God.
Yeah, like you said, you've never heard anyone reference that.
Yeah.
Probably a small number of people actually do reference it. And his mention of God and the altar of God was indeed like slang relative at the time.
Were you
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm trying to organize my thoughts. Is this the best quote that there is to kind of argue one way or the other for his belief? Did he have any other pieces of writing?
Yes, he had a lot of writing on religion. Specifically, he had the Jefferson Bible, which, has anyone heard about this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So this is one of his more well-known works on religion. So basically he took the King James Version of the Bible in 3 different languages and cut out all of the mystery and miracles and nonsense that didn't have anything to do with the moral teachings of Jesus. So keeping all of the love and none of the magic, basically.
Small Bible then.
Yeah, well, because of the different translations, it was like, so each of these is a different language of, yeah, he was very thorough. Like, Jefferson was a goddamn genius. Like, no, I mean, he devoted his efforts to, I don't know, I would have chosen different things, but, you know.
You got around in France.
Yeah, and French was one of the languages. I know.
What was the other one?
Greek and English. Yeah.
I thought that was.
Let's see if I actually remember that correctly, because I do have a video of some scholars talking about Jefferson's Bible, because they can do it better than I can, because I don't study this stuff.
Wait, just thought of something. Does it also cut out the virgin birth part?
In creating the Jefferson Bible, what Thomas Jefferson
I haven't,
did
so
was
let's see.
take a Greek, Latin, French, and English version.
Latin, French.
And he had a column for each language, Greek and Latin on the side, French and English on the side, so he could compare the translations. He took Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, got rid of all redundancy, he put things in chronological order, so it goes from birth to death. He got rid of miracles, and he focused a lot on Jesus' speech and his particular, what he felt Jesus himself said.
Is a really intriguing object. And because it's so intriguing, there's many aspects about it that you come to appreciate. And on the one hand, you're getting this real sense of Jefferson the individual. For me, I think of Jefferson as, author of the Declaration of Independence, skilled politician, skilled diplomat, president, religious, philosophical leader, not really high on my list until I began to examine it. And what you see through this is a more complete Jefferson. And by understanding Jefferson, I think you also get a better understanding of the Revolutionary era and the founding of the nation.
I like that. We must reduce our volume to the simple evangelist, select even from them the very words only of Jesus. Yeah, cool. Sublime and benevolent code of morals, which is, I like that, sublime and benevolent code. I'm gonna steal that. Cool. So yeah, you asked, does it have the story of the virgin birth and
you're
Mary?
cutting out the magical part, then how do you explain the whole birth?
I don't think it's a good question.
That's kind of like.
And I bought the book, so let's search
That's
it.
kind of the core parts of Christianity. Like that's really.
But it's just a teaching.
Yeah.
I guess, but I mean, I just think it's one of those things you can't really get rid of.
Oh wow, this is chapter 14. I shall like the kingdom of heaven to be unto 10 virgins. Those virgins are no, nothing about the virgin birth.
Search for Mary.
Oh, let's see.
That's what I was going to say now.
Mary is the spouse wife, being great with child. It's going to be taxed, Mary. I don't see anything.
Mary and birth. I think that might be a good
Mary and birth. All right, one more, and if we don't see it, we're gonna have to move on. All right, but it is there. If you'd like it, it's only $1, so it's pretty cool. You can pick it up. Only $1. It downloads to your Kindle or your computer or whatever.
It's like 200 years old.
Yeah, why isn't it free? It should be Creative Commons or whatever.
Where's the dollar?
Copyright.
Where's the what?
Where's the dollar going to?
The dollar? Oh, I don't know. Amazon, maybe? I don't know. It seems like
The
that's
dollars
pretty
are
too.
funny.
Yeah. Let's see. So, Richard Dawkins and John Lennox talked about deism at the beginning of their debate, and I felt like it was pretty good to share. They have a good dialogue about, Richard Dawkins saying something about deism, and then John Lennox responds. So I really liked the. He is a Catholic. He was on Penn and Teller's Bullshit. I don't know if you guys have seen that. It was pretty good. But let's take a look at just this for now.
We'll begin with Richard. Richard, the question as we begin is: has science buried God?
Has science
buried God? I mean, we could take Einstein's God, which is not really a personal God at all, but which is a sort of poetic metaphor for the mystery, that which we don't understand about the universe. We could take a deist God, a sort of God of the physicists, as well as somebody like Paul Davies, who devised the laws of physics, God the mathematician, God who put together the cosmos in the first place and then sat back and watched everything happen. And that would be the deist God would be one that I think it would be, one could make a reasonably respectable case for that, not a case that I would accept, but I think it is a serious discussion that we can have. The third kind of God is one of which there are thousands and thousands of varieties, Zeus and Thor and Apollo and Amun-Ra and Yahweh. And we don't actually need to go through all those because as Larry has said, I've been in contact with John Lennox before, and I know what the God he believes in, which is the Christian God. So we only have to talk about the Christian God. John Lennox is a scientist who believes that Jesus turned water into wine. A scientist who believes that Jesus somehow influenced all those molecules of H2O and introduced proteins and carbohydrates and tannins and alcohol and turned it into wine. He believes that Jesus walked on water. I have been accustomed to debating with sophisticated theologians, And I come across John Lennox, who is a scientist who believes in all those things. In particular, he believes that the creator of the universe, the God who devised the laws of physics, the laws of mathematics, the physical constants, who devised the parsecs of space, billions of light years of space, billions of years of time, that this paragon of physical science, this genius of mathematics, couldn't think of a better way to rid the world of sin than to come to this little speck of cosmic dust and have himself tortured and executed so that he could forgive himself. That is profoundly unscientific. Not only that unscientific, it doesn't do justice to the grandeur of the universe. It's petty and small-minded. And that's the God that John Lennox believes in.
That's one way to think about it. So Richard Dawkins can be really scathing at times.
He's really mean.
I really like his talents.
Yeah, he's got some.
I don't know. I don't think you should discount people's beliefs like that.
Yeah. Neil Tyson has called him out on that. Like on stage, said that like your beliefs, your brash language may turn people off. I think he said
Beliefs,
like
beliefs are allowed to be unscientific.
Wait, say that again?
Beliefs are allowed to be scientific.
Yeah,
Because it's what you
true.
believe. Like how do you like prove that you should like believe in human kindness?
With that said, I think we should have reasons for our beliefs. But yeah, you don't like have to.
I mean, you should have reasons, but the belief should be something you just feel.
Yes.
But I also think he's emulating what some Christians do and Christian leaders are doing. They just completely discount the beliefs of others if they're not the same as theirs. So he's just emulating what some other religious people are doing.
I would say they need to make a TV show about a deist God, because I imagine that watching the world as it is must be a really good movie.
They did, and we're going to watch a clip of it in
I
a
mean,
second.
but like, what if
Go ahead, go ahead.
God is deist and like he's like, I don't really give a fuck about you. I'm just here to watch you.
Yeah.
That's kind of like
what would happen to all the religions?
Yeah, what would happen to like Christian? I mean, that's assuming you believe in a monotheistic God. What if you like what if you believe in a polytheistic religion? And you're like, oh shit, there's one. And he doesn't even give a shit about it. That's kind of hurts. Yeah, but still, it's like he doesn't want to interact with you. It's like that father who's like, yeah,
absentee ruler.
That's like that absentee father who's like, oh yeah, you.
Whoa.
Yes, Warren. You know, that brings up another question. How come no one has floated the idea of polytheism? Like, doesn't that make as much sense as monotheism? Like, multiple gods together, creating the laws of physics and setting the universe into motion?
Because it depends on what kind of deist you are. Like, some deists believe that there was a God that created us. He's out there, doesn't really watch over us, but he is our origin. He is our start point. But the idea of a God isn't as relevant as in their lives. Like, they don't pray to him. They don't do all that stuff that organized religion does. But if you're polytheistic, how is that relevant to your life? Because the point is that there's a creator. That's the only reason that you're deist or.
Sorry, it can be relevant to your life. I mean, there's a lot of religious people. Let's take Hinduism for example. They have God for different things. So I think it's. I mean, I definitely understand what you're saying, but I think that relevance is dependent upon that culture or that individual. So it may not be relevant to me or you, but I guess it's because if you're grown up in that culture, then you kind of accept it. That's relevant.
Wait, I got it.
Okay, 1 or 2.
But I'm saying like polytheistic as in without organized religion around it. Like the only thing you believe is a number versus a specific identity associated with them. Like, oh yeah, there's 5 gods that we came from. There's 6 gods. There's multiple gods that we came from. But you don't associate a name, an identity, a history, a story, none of that. I feel like without organized religion, if you just believe in one God was there and now he's gone, but now we're here, versus many gods were there and now they're gone. If you don't have a history to it, a culture to it, any of that stuff, it's just the idea or concept of a creator, and that's all it is in your life, not something that you pray to or have any relevance in your life without like Hinduism or organized religions like that, then I feel like you don't think about it as much, which is why people don't like distinguish being polytheist and just being deist as far as like there not being organized religion.
So Richard Dawkins pointed out, he gave kind of an account of Einstein's, derivative of like Spinoza's pantheism, which I don't think it was correct. I don't think that.
Which part? That
Einstein
believed?
Yeah, they believed that Einstein subscribed to wasn't necessarily that I don't even, like God was. It was almost like he was saying that like Einstein really did believe in God. He just believed that there was a marvel to the universe that gave us like a feeling that was kind of godlike.
Yes.
But at the same time, the pantheism, of course, is the belief that God and the universe are the same, and that when we live in the universe and we act in it, we get to know God more by interacting with the universe more.
Yeah.
And I think that's closer to what Einstein really believed, especially since Einstein, he had all these amazing discoveries through learning about the universe.
Thinking about it, and learning about the universe.
And he could have easily been like, wow, like, even though I'm learning about physics and all these scientific things, I'm having like, I'm learning more maybe about myself. He could have these spiritual epiphanies just from learning about the physical universe.
Yeah, he
did.
He absolutely. In fact, when he was trying to prove his general theory of relativity, someone asked him like, well, what if you are proven wrong? And he was like, if I'm proven wrong, then I feel bad for God because my theory is correct. Like that kind of spiritual confidence, I feel like, he definitely had.
I'm sorry, what?
I feel bad for the good Lord because my theory is correct.
Why do you?
If I'm proven wrong,
Yes.
that my theory is correct.
No, if I'm proven wrong, I feel bad for God.
Yeah, all right, we can.
Ooh, I was gonna say something.
If someone could look up the quote, but yes.
But I just want to finish by, and after thinking about this a little bit more, it seems to me that there's almost two different types of deism in that sense. Like the deism where there is a God that's separate from the world, and the God creates the world and goes away from it. And there's also the God of deism that's not separate from the world, but at the same time doesn't interact with it. So that would be kind of like pantheism, except that in this deism, pantheism, we wouldn't know God as we explore the universe and interact with it. We would just know, I guess, like the objectification of God, or like some kind of creation that, I don't know, I'm actually kind of confused now.
Me too.
Ooh, I got
two more comments.
Subject, as I shared earlier.
Yes.
From a group. So there's deism, there's pandeism as a term.
Yes.
Panentheism and panentheism are also terms, which we're still looking for too. God created the universe and then stopping attention. God is the universe, but also doesn't intercede. God is the universe, but it's also more appeared. That makes sense. You can look it up.
I mean, maybe a version of deism also depends on the region of the world you're in, because the founding fathers had a cultural context of Christian monotheism, but I'm sure someone in India or someone in who believes in traditional West African beliefs is gonna have a different idea of what deism is. So it might also depend on your culture.
True. Well, cool. Let's hear John Lennox's response.
Well, thank you for explaining so clearly, at least in part, what I believe. I'm glad to hear you say that you feel a good case could be made out that there is rationality behind the universe. You said it's not something you personally accept. So you believe that this universe is just a freak accident. There's no mind behind it. And yet here you are with one of the best minds in the world. So you believe a number of things that I, as a scientist, find very difficult to believe. And we can certainly talk about my specific Christian faith later, but I confess to it absolutely. I think that there is a creator of the universe. He created it, but he's not just a force, he's a person. And we are persons created in his image. And you say that God becoming human and Christ dying on a cross and rising from the dead is petty. I think the exact opposite. It's not petty, because it deals seriously with the fundamental problem that I don't think atheism even begins to deal with, and that is the problem of our alienation with God. Of course, that makes no sense unless we believe in God. So I don't know how we should proceed. Perhaps the best way to start would be this. As a scientist, we both believe in the rational intelligibility of the universe. I believe the universe is rationally intelligible because there's a creator God behind it. Now, how do you account for the rational intelligibility of the universe?
Well, John, you said that I believe that the universe is a freak accident, which is the opposite of what you believe. For many years, for many centuries indeed, it seemed perfectly obvious that it couldn't possibly be a freak accident, because you only have to look at living creatures, the sort of magnificent diversity we see in this museum, and everything looks designed. And so it's very preposterous to suggest that it was due to any kind of freak accident. Darwin came along and showed that it's not actually a freak accident, but nor is it designed. There's a third way, which in the case of biology is evolution by natural selection, which produces a close imitation of something that is designed. It's not designed, we know that now, we understand how it happened, but it looks very designed. Now the cosmos hasn't yet had its Darwin. We don't yet know how the laws of physics came into existence, how the physical constants came into existence. And so we can still say, is it a freak accident or was it designed? The analogy with biology might discourage us from being too confident that it's designed, because we had our fingers burned before the 19th century thinking that biology, which looks so much more obviously designed, that we got our fingers burned there. Now, in the case of the cosmos, freak accident or design, the point that I've made over and over again is that even if we don't understand how it came about, it's not helpful to postulate a creator, because the creator is the very kind of thing that needs an explanation. And although it's difficult enough to explain how a very simple origin of the universe came into being, how matter and energy, how one or two physical constants came into existence, although it's difficult enough to think how simplicity came into existence, it's a hell of a lot harder to think how something as complicated as a God comes into existence, difficult enough to think of how a deist God comes into existence, and even more difficult to think of how the Christian God, who actually cares about things like sin and gets himself born of a virgin.
That's one way to think about it. Yeah. Does anyone have any responses to that?
So,
yeah.
Lennox's argument seems to be begging the question a bit.
Yeah?
He seems to be saying that he essentially says that atheism does not deal with the problem of, since atheism does not deal with the problem of reconciliation with God, you should believe in God. He's assuming that God exists in the first place.
Good point.
To go to this point in the beginning when he's talking about like how there's like, you believe there's like chaos in the universe, what about entropy? Because naturally things tend to become more disorganized as it's one of the rules of thermodynamics.
Specifically by the natural log of the multiplicity by a factor of Boltzmann's constant, yes.
So then, if anything, it's just God himself is just creating more disorderliness on his own core.
Yeah.
And if I were if God was deist, this would be a good movie.
Yeah. Right.
So, abusive father figure?
A little bit. On the note of everyone's created by accident, just like most of you. Yes. Sorry. Yes.
Wow.
Ignore it.
You mentioned this law with Boltzmann's constant and the logarithm. So
natural log of the multiplicity. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. You don't have to look it up, but like,
Okay. I mean, that's
if
like it's that important.
I'm
Tattoo,
sorry.
man.
Why isn't it a tattoo?
Yes.
Why
I mean,
would
if-
you Chinese tattoo?
if-
I would get it.
If God put that rule into existence, would that make him a lawgiver?
God, I love your puns, man. Yes. Yes, he would. He is a log. Thank you, Warren. That was the best pun. I like it. So, yes, go ahead.
Richard Dawkins was like, okay, so Lennox, obviously, I think he was begging the question, but Richard Dawkins' counter argument was also very unclear because he said, "Oh, you're right, it's not an accident, and here's why," and then he didn't explain it. I mean, I don't understand.
Well, he says we don't know, and that's okay. We haven't
Yes.
had the cosmos version of Darwin
Yes.
explaining like evolution. Darwin explained evolution by natural selection. We haven't had that explanation on this large scale. So he's saying we don't know, and that's okay.
But it doesn't rule out deism or
It doesn't.
Right.
But
It-
just
but that's- yeah.
we should be humble because of what happened with biology. I think was what he was getting at.
Kind of think of that. Lawrence Krauss, the theoretical physicist,
Yeah.
is out of Dawkins, obviously. Does have a lecture called The Universe from Nothing, which he outlines a potential explanation for the universe without recourse to some sort of intentional entity. Outlined for, well, here is another option if you need, if you are making a, was it abductive reason argument?
Wait, say that again?
Abductive, right, abductive reason.
Abductive.
Yeah. You have abduction.
Oh dear.
Abduction. Okay. Yeah. Let's get back on target. Yeah. Let's go back to the. Okay.
I said that wrong.
No worries. So.
Is that an E?
Is it what, E? Oh, no, I don't think so.
I thought it was a triangle.
It might be an E.
That's not
It's a circle with the delta.
You may wish to be a deist, as my heroes Thomas Jefferson and Thomas Paine were, and you may not wish to abandon the idea that there must be some sort of first or proximate cause or prime mover of the known and observable world and universe. But even if you can get yourself to that position, which we unbelievers maintain is always subject to better and more perfect and more elegant explanations, even if you can get yourself to that position, all your work is still ahead of you. To go from being a deist to a theist, in other words, from someone who says, God cares about you, knows who you are, minds what you do, answers your prayers, cares which bits of your penis or clitoris you saw away or have sawn away for you, minds who you go to bed with and in what way, minds what holy days you observe, minds what you eat, minds what positions you use for pleasure. All your work is still ahead of you, and lots of luck. Because there's nobody, even Aquinas had to give it up. There's no one who can move from the first position to the second.
True that. Yeah. Thomas Aquinas couldn't even do it. It's like that's the best that he could do was moving to the deist position. And like there is an argument to make for it, but maybe that could be because we don't have all the information. Maybe. So there was a television series that had a deistic god, one that didn't even show up until the 12th season. 11th season. Okay. Well, we didn't know he was God until like later on.
I actually want to watch that one. So.
You want to? Oh well.
It's amazing.
It's
depressing,
pretty.
but it's amazing.
It's not gonna. I won't say this is gonna spoil it, but. Oh really?
Already decided.
It's gonna.
Say the name.
Supernatural. Supernatural.
Can I leave the room and you can say? Yeah, we're leaving the room.
Are you sure? It's worth it. It's gonna make you want to watch it more.
Okay, go.
I'm pretty sure. Yes.
Wait,
No. No one's gonna die. It's like it's ridiculous. Okay, so like I said, anyway, these are the guys, the Winchesters. That guy is an angel. I mean, that guy.
Like an angel.
Castiel, yeah, an angel. Wait, what? Literally from heaven, yeah. And he, well, The deist part is that we don't, everyone, even the angels don't know where God is. Like that's the, like, where is our Father? He's what? There is a heaven, there's a hell, there's Lucifer. Lucifer possesses Dean, like it's Sammy. Anyway, let's take a look at their interpretation of the deist God. Like when everyone finds out that Chuck is God.
That's reminds me of
God damn it. Yes.
So, Chuck, I guess we don't call you that, huh?
I prefer it.
Okay, Chuck it is. I'm sorry, you're going to have to give Dean and me a moment to start the process. We didn't even know you were around. I mean, we knew about Chuck, but we just didn't know about Chuck. I was hoping you were around. I prayed, and I don't know if they got lost in the spam or if, okay.
I'm getting that not everyone's totally on board.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, Chuck. And I mean no disrespect. I'm guessing you came back to help with the darkness. And that's great. That's, it's fantastic. But you've been gone a long time. There's so much crap that has gone down on the earth for thousands of years. I mean, plagues and wars, slaughters, and you were, I don't know, writing books, going to fan conventions. Were you even aware, or did you just tune it out?
I was aware, Dean.
But you did nothing. And again, I'm not trying to piss you off. I don't want to turn into a pillar of salt.
I actually didn't do that.
Okay. People pray to you. People build churches for you. They fight wars in your name, and you did nothing.
You're frustrated. I get it. Believe me, I was hands-on. Real hands-on for, wow, ages. I was so sure if I kept stepping in, teaching, punishing these beautiful creatures that I created would grow up. But it only stayed the same. And I saw that I needed to step away and let my baby find its way. Being over-involved is no longer parenting. It's enabling.
It didn't get better.
Well, I was mulling it over.
He's been
And
mulling it
from where
over.
I sit, I think it has.
Oh, thanks.
Well, from where I sit, it feels like you left us and you're trying to justify it.
That's another way to look at it. Yeah. So I just leave it at that.
That more your thing. You
Oh, yes.
Where like the main character is God, but she doesn't know it, and they can't tell her because she'll destroy the world.
Wow. Yeah, I should have some clips
Because
of
she's
that in here.
eccentric, and like she remade and unmade the world 3 years ago.
And have y'all seen Almighty Johnson's?
Almighty Johnson?
It's a short run New Zealand show.
I have not.
About the Nordic gods, right?
Okay.
They all disappeared and they all got transferred to human bodies and they all went to New Zealand. Okay, so it goes like there's this actual boat that is just really happening that went from the Netherlands to
what's it called?
New Zealand. The Almighty Johnsons. They canceled it though, but it's still worth watching.
Good. I'll download it.
Who you watch it?
Yeah. At the okay.
Yes.
Michael's Pirate.
What?
Wait, Mike.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
are you connected to the... Oh, I have a VPN. We're good.
Wait, Mike. Rachel,
Vivian.
are you putting this video on YouTube?
No. Oh, I mean, we're not pirating.
Don't pay for your videos.
We kind of are pirating.
Yeah. Gotta pay for things, guys.
Okay.
It's all good fun.
Yes.
Right. So at the beginning of that clip, there was the words "All in the Family" on the screen.
It was the name of the episode.
Okay.
From season 11, episode 12. Yeah.
Interesting, because there is a full TV show that ran for several years with that name. Back from like the 70s or so. I think.
Yes,
Who else has seen that?
All in the Family?
It's about it's about a middle-aged racist guy named Archie Bunker.
Yeah, straight to the moon with it.
Yeah.
Straight to the moon. Archie.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
So, this is my man. Yeah. Neil deGrasse Tyson had a couple of things to say about deism, agnosticism, atheism, labels and such, and I felt like it was important to get another scientist's perspective on the subject, because he has an interesting opinion. Let's take a look.
I'm often asked, and occasionally in an accusatory way, are you atheist? You know, the only ist I am is a scientist. I don't associate movements. I'm not an ism. I think for myself. The moment when someone attaches you to a philosophy or a movement, then they assign all the baggage and all the rest of the philosophy that goes with it to you. And when you want to have a conversation, they will observe. I already know everything important there is to know about you because and that's not the way to have a conversation. Sorry, it's not. I'd rather we explore each other's ideas in real time, rather than assign a label to it and assert you know what's going to happen in advance. So, what people are really after is, what is my stance on religion, spirituality, or God? And I would say if I could find a word that came closest, it would be agnostic. Agnostic, a word that dates from the 19th century, Huxley. To refer to someone who doesn't know, but hasn't yet really seen evidence for it, but is prepared to embrace the evidence if it's there, but if it's not, it won't be forced to have to think something that is not otherwise supported. Okay? There are many atheists who say, well, all agnostics are atheists. Okay. I'm constantly claimed by atheists. I find this intriguing. In fact, on my wiki page, I didn't create the wiki page, others did, and I'm flattered that people cared enough about my life to assemble it. And it said, Neil deGrasse Tyson is an atheist. I said, well, that's not true. I said, Neil deGrasse Tyson is an agnostic. Went back a week later, it said Neil Tyson is an atheist. Within a week. And I said, what's up with that? And I said, all right, I have to word it a little differently. So I said, okay, Neil deGrasse Tyson, widely claimed by atheists, is actually an agnostic. And some will say, well, you're not being fair to the fact that they're actually the same thing. No, they're not the same thing, I'll tell you why. Atheists I know who proudly wear the badge are active atheists. They're like in your face atheists, and they want to change policies, and they're having debates. I don't have the time, the interest, the energy to do anything. I'm a scientist, I'm an educator. My goal is to get people thinking straight in the first place. Get you to be curious about the natural world. That's what I'm about. I'm not about any of the rest of it. It's odd that the word atheist even exists. I don't play golf. Is there a word for non-golf players? Non-golf players gather and strategize? Do non-skiers have a word and come together and talk about the fact that they don't ski? I can't do that. I can't gather around and talk about how much everybody in the room doesn't believe in God. I don't have the energy for that. And so agnostic separates me from the conduct of atheism. Whether or not there's strong overlap between the two categories. at the end of the day, I'd rather not be any category.
Fight the labels.
Fuck labels.
I respect his opinion. Is it what?
Oh.
No, this is Neil Tyson.
Oh, this is
He is the man. He is the. That's he
The man's the meanest.
He's the legend. Yeah.
I was gonna say, but he has hair.
That's
Did he have hair once?
Yes.
He did?
He had the nicest hairline I've ever seen in my life.
Way.
He had the nerve to cut it off.
Excuse you, I have a nice
He had to join the one society.
Family Feud.
Way before that.
Oh.
Oh.
They probably had
Just like Morgan Freeman.
They're trying to
Yes, let's talk about the topic at hand. Responses to Neil Tyson.
Yes. So as far as being agnostic, that's me. It's cool. I identify with that 100%. But I do like having debates. That way, you know, if someone on the other side, or a different side, I'm not going to say other because it's not two sides, on a different side or a different viewpoint has something that can change my mind, I'd like to hear it because I'm open to all of that. Being agnostic is I'm open to anything that you can give me, so I can either say my view on it and we can go back and forth, which is fun, or I can change my beliefs slightly because you enlightened me with something, but that hasn't happened yet.
It's unfortunate. We need to get some.
Honestly, I think humans, we're tribalistic in nature.
Tribalistic?
I just made that up, but
That's a
I
word.
mean, is it? Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. We tend to gravitate towards tribe. That's how we evolve. At the end of the day, we might welcome other religions and everything, but if your beliefs are more secular, for example, you're gonna gravitate towards someone else that has similar views to you.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it kind of makes sense that, I mean, look at us right now.
Yeah,
we all have
we are doing what he
similar, not
says.
exact same belief probably, but very similar beliefs, and we gravitate towards that. Because we identify with each other. This is our tribe to a certain extent.
Yeah. Love you guys.
I was just putting John's hands.
That's kind of what I was going to say. I think it's funny that he says, I just want to promote discussions and open discussions where people don't use labels to pre-assume everything that you know and everything that you are. And then he also says, conversely, that, but I'm not going to get together with a group and talk about, you know, not believing in something or talk about not golfing or whatever he said. Like, but that's kind of what atheist groups do. I guess not all of them do that, but I mean, ours is not really an atheist group. Ours is just about open discussions, and I feel like we kind of do that, but.
Yeah, and well, the other thing is like, is golfing the same as religion? Like, are there other considerations? And it's like,
I guess if you idolize a golfer to a certain level,
maybe.
If you put Tiger Woods on a pedestal,
If I'm being persecuted for not golfing, then
yeah.
sure. Or if golfing is like a part of the government that I have to deal with on a daily basis, and golfing is on the money that I spend every day. I don't know.
To be honest, golf is really boring.
Yeah.
That fits golf. Okay, good.
Subject of labels. And it's fair enough if Tyson wants to dissociate himself with like the atheist movement as such. Everything new atheists in particular. But it's all a conflation of like ideology and communities. And like it also depends on what labels or definitions that you use. And if you talk about like implicit versus explicit atheism or some versus weak or negative versus positive, then like as a description of one's beliefs, then Tyson also fit within certain definitions of atheism. But people, as he says, tend to like assume further beyond that, and like he doesn't want that attention.
But it's also good just like to discuss things with people and just be like, oh, you're a Christian, you have to believe this. Oh, you're an atheist, you have to believe this. It's just good to be people who have different opinions on different topics.
Yes.
At the end of the day, we're all human.
Yes. Good to know people with different opinions.
Why can't I hold on
this? Warren, yes.
I think, so this is interesting. I think a lot of us, when we choose to label ourselves, which I used to more than I do now, I think...
Tooth fairy agnostic.
What?
Tooth fairy agnostic.
Oh, yes, true.
I like that, yeah.
But anyway, we sort of expect our label to be more widely understood than it actually will be.
Yeah, that's true. Is that partly our fault for not doing a good enough job explaining it?
Well, it's more like a matter of it's more just like out in the outside world for when, like, even if we did a good job explaining it, it's not like everyone on Earth is listening to us. So
Sure.
we shouldn't use the main places where it is appropriate to use labels are where we know we're surrounded by people who are basically going to understand it.
Yes. Yeah, we should use the labels that will allow us to be understood. Yeah.
I almost like, I want to like, put a label into like a metaphor, and like I'm thinking like a label could be like, okay, so if we're climbing the stairs and the stairs represents like our pursuit of knowledge and discovering ourselves, then a label could be like a plateau where you're kind of just like resting, okay, this is cool, I'm taking a break, I'm not gonna like keep venturing out into this unknown where I'm not anything. But at the same time, people could be like, oh, he's at that plateau, that means that, for example, like if you want to use the metaphor, that's how many stairs he can climb. That's his limit. That's where he is. And so the problem with the label then is that on the one hand, it does give the person that sense of identity that gives them security and contentment, but at the same time, it's like, but wait, I can climb more stairs, and I maybe believe something, that's more than what my label is. So it's like you're kind of like boxing that person into, oh, he can only climb this many stairs, and that's why he's plateauing. But then the agnostic would be like, well, I'm going to keep going, and then they go past the plateau and they keep walking up the stairs. That label kind of gives it that like that step of security.
That's an interesting way to think about it. We got.
Isn't agnostic
one
a
more
label
comment.
though? So
Yeah,
in that way.
everything's a label, man. Yeah.
But it's ever
Label.
changing, kind of like scientists. Like if agnostics are approached with certain evidence, they like. I feel like a part of belief of being agnostic is when I see new evidence or new theories or discoveries, I will approach it with the same mind that I would approach anything, and like actually take it into consideration.
So it's more like a flexible label that you can just change your opinions, not like, oh, I believe this, die other people who don't believe this.
Just like scientists, when they say like, I believe in this, and then when new evidence comes along that says, well, that's not quite correct, they go, oh, okay, then I need to evaluate that evidence and look at what I believe and look what the evidence says and figure things out. So it's like ever changing.
Yeah. One last
Yay!
Good catch.
Do you want to go? Okay. That's definitely the staircase situation, though, the scientist thing. Where I said, I'm going to stay on this until more evidence comes, and then I'm going to go to this, and this is what I believe now. But there's no question, there's no relevance in the fact that a staircase is ascending, right? Like each new label you get doesn't mean it's an improvement from the last label that you have, because you could end up going back to the same label you were before. You could jump a few places and then go back to square one and say, I believe in this again.
I would say like the staircase is not better, but more like self-discovery, like self-knowledge. As you get higher on the staircase, you know yourself more because you thought about your beliefs and what you want to do.
The painting with the perspective.
Yeah.
Who painted those?
I can't remember. It's like those, like you could come back around
later.
to it.
Yes.
Yes.
So we do have to draw to a close. We're welcome to talk in here for a few minutes after the end of the meeting. But oh man, we have more to say. Yes.
Wait, not about this, but so I'm trying to put together a Send an Atheist to Church.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys would be interested, but I would like to do it, set it up as a fundraising event where I guess at the table you're gonna have like a donation bucket for different faiths. You'd be like, oh, do you want to donate to the Catholic bucket, or do you want to donate to the Scientologist bucket, or whatever faiths we decide, and then whichever has the most money, we will send a couple of us in this group to that church or whatever religious establishment you want to call it, to learn more about that faith, and then come back and present it or just talk about it at a meeting. And honestly, my idea is to say oh, the winning bucket, we'll send 10 people or whatever, but I feel like if people donate in any bucket, we should just send somebody and go to any of those places anyway, just so you can learn about more things and more about the religions, with actual hands-on experience, in their house. So I don't know if any of you would be interested in doing that and being like an atheist that's sent to church or whatever, or any other. I keep saying church, like any religious establishment. I know. I think I was talking with Miranda about, and someone else on the group chat about like a Wiccan group or a pagan group, and then even like. So if you guys are interested, that would be awesome. And if you know anybody of certain faiths on campus, or especially faiths that are not as popular, like if you know some Mormons on campus, or if you know a Scientologist on campus, like, oh my God, please talk to them and see if we could come to their church one day and like learn about them.
Oh, this reminds me of this one experience I had with my dad when we went to a Hindu temple. And like when you got into the inner sanctum of the temple, you just felt like this peace and serenity. Like there was no talking, there was no shoes. You were just surrounded by white marble and statues of different Indian gods and like the cool
Great, and
stuff.
so that's what I wanted to bring to this group of. I know we have presenters come in and talk to us about different faiths, but then it's different to actually go into their house and see how they worship and how they, and learn from them firsthand. So if you guys are interested in doing that, or if you know anybody of specific faiths, even any different sects of Christianity, that would be awesome. Like contact and reach out to them and see if their group would be willing to have a group of us come and just learn. And then we can set up a data table and fundraise, and then we can figure out like what days, Saturdays, Sundays, whatever days we're going to church, and then send a couple of people.
I'm totally on board with that.
So let me know if you have people, just like contact me in the group chat or text me or email or whatever.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Oh yeah, and then the money that we get could be donated to
charity.
To charity. We could find an organization we find worthy, like maybe a secular charity, or we could.
What's something that like all these religions would support?
Poverty. Who doesn't want kids?
There's not maybe something else.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to do something with kids.
Yeah, I saw
What about the organization you're involved with?
Well, I'm gonna email. We talked about me and my group. I'm gonna email you tomorrow.
Yes.
I'm gonna be busy. And then I'm gonna see, because we're thinking about doing a bake sale. And we're thinking about not just do like a normal bake sale, since we're gonna bring different groups. We like, for example, like a Catholic group, might have, just because of demographics, might have a higher propensity of Hispanic people. We could bring some of the Hispanic food and like. I know I'm trying to put this down stereotypical, but and like the Muslims, like the MSA, like I have some contact with them, so maybe we can like do a multicultural like food kind of sale.
That would be
Or Hindu food.
That would be.
Yeah, if you have ideas of charities that we could send the money to as well,
Ooh,
we
I
could
want
do that.
those
Or
images.
my idea is always sending books to prisons and
Okay.
and like Toys for Tots, but we could do that closer to Christmas.
That would be cool.
And back to one more thing. There was like
One more thing. Yes.
There was on one slide of remember there was like one paper was like you could do certain events. I would like to put that on there, and maybe we can do like a sign up.
Okay.
So because I probably won't be able to go through those since I'll be working all weekend now because I got the new
Congrats.
Staples job.
Congrats.
Nice. You can also create an event in the group meeting too, where you can coordinate like logistics on that.
That'd be good too.
Awesome.
Back to what Neil Tyson was saying, I guess to close everything up, I respect his opinion. I think that labels can be pretty dangerous, and like he wants to be an agnostic, that's very cool. But like we were talking about, there is a difference between golfing and religion, and there's like bad stuff that happens all around the world, like this that happened last year. So DACA has a really big problem with.
All my people.
Yeah, with so people who speak out against religion get hacked to death, and it's something that it hasn't just happened once. It happened a few years ago as well. Abhijit Roy, who lived in Atlanta for many years, was hacked to death in Dhaka. His wife just barely survived. Yes.
Where's Dhaka?
Dhaka is in Bangladesh.
The capital. Yep.
Yeah. So just, all I have to say, like, there is some bad shit that goes on, and like I respect his opinion that he has better things to do. Well, this is something that I think needs to be done. So I don't think that we should feel bad about talking about religion or whatever he was insinuating. Like it's there's legitimate things that need to be addressed. If they're not,
Maybe like from Neil deGrasse Tyson, even though he's a smart man, maybe he's just not like, I guess like not apt at handling like a political. That could be very possible.
And
Maybe he just doesn't want to get involved.
True. It's like he is handling other things. Some people have to handle those things, so that's fine if he doesn't
Like, I
want to
handle
participate.
politics and
But
you handle
this is
physics.
something that I feel
I
like we
handle
can do
relationships
something
and
about.
shifts.
Yes.
Oh, you didn't have to. I was just gonna ask, was he killed by random people?
No, he was
By the government?
no. People who were religious. There was a mob of people that came up with machetes.
So, like,
and,
So like what happens
oh,
is
a random
like,
event, yeah.
there's like these mobs, they go and attack people, and technically they're a secular constitution, everything's secular. But
Technically.
it's basically like the police, they
Don't
do
enforce
a blind eye.
Yeah, it's like
No
who-
enforcement.
no one got arrested for
Yeah,
that.
that's
Oh. Carlos, yes.
No, actually, it wasn't very
Okay.
But they did do a crackdown. Like there was a terrorist attack in Dhaka, and there was a massive crackdown.
Good.
Basically, like over 200 people.
Good, that needs to happen, more of that. Like if we have more outrage, if more people can talk about it and hear about it, maybe stuff like this
But it
wouldn't
took a terrorist attack.
happen as often. Yeah. So that's all we got. Does anyone else like to add something to that?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
So, today is Wednesday.
Yes.
As you all know, I'm organizer of Sunday Atlanta.
Yes.
This Friday is the Winter Club. Tim is doing a topic on consciousness and experience, and the third thing I forgot what it's called, which I definitely suggest all of you come to Winter Club, and like we have a small event that Sunday does. And then the next Sunday is like October 15th. Pretty sure.
Yeah, nature of reality.
I mean, possibly. Okay.
That sounds
We have to have a meeting on the simulation theory.
We are. We are.
Wait.
I wonder if
And I need to talk to
you.
Miro.
Oh, also, I'm
Miro,
okay.
He's still the official one.
It says the sci-fi media group.
No, he's
every
left.
so, as you may or may not know, Star Trek has a new
I thought you
series.
was the
Yes.
That airs every Sunday.
Yes.
We are meeting to like watch that. We saw the premiere this past Sunday.
Nice.
Wait. You're watching what on Sunday?
Star Trek Discovery.
We also
What?
we also have
Orville with Seth
With
MacFarlane.
Seth
Oh, yeah.
I've been at Seth MacFarlane.
I've been meaning to find that.
I've been at Seth MacFarlane.
I don't know. I just.
Sorry. Yeah. Dope
I know
pirate.
it's like,
Yeah.
it's a good.
Excellent. So that's the end of the single time meeting. Go back to Deism. That was it. See, Deism. Back to it. What do you have to say?
All my friends are heathens, take it slow. Wait for them to ask you who you know.